Eli had never seen anything like the Virex station. From the observation deck, the sprawling city of lights and colors seemed alive. Ships of every shape floated gently between docking bays, each one carrying beings from distant corners of the galaxy. He could see the glowing trails of their engines, and the hum of energy fields filled the air like music. A human explorer among aliens was a rare sight. Most beings looked at him with curiosity, some with suspicion, and a few with open fascination. Eli was used to it. Humans had a reputation for courage and recklessness, and Eli carried that reputation proudly. Today, he wasn't here for sightseeing. He was here for trade negotiations, but curiosity had a way of pulling him into places he wasn't supposed to go. He wandered through the crowded concourse, past a group of tentacled merchants haggling over glowing minerals. The station's floor vibrated softly with the power of the central energy core, and Eli could feel it under his boots. He marveled at the alien architecture, towers that twisted impossibly into the sky, floating platforms that shifted in midair, and light bridges that connected distant sections. Then, as if guided by fate or trouble, his eyes caught a small, blinking doorway marked with a symbol he didn't recognize. It pulsed faintly with red light, almost as if it were alive. "Restricted area," a soft alien voice echoed in his mind, not spoken aloud, but transmitted somehow directly to him. The station used advanced neural communication for security. Eli knew this meant trouble. Of course, he stepped closer anyway. The moment his hand brushed the door's frame, a loud alarm blared, and a red warning light swept across the corridor. His heart raced. He knew that this was serious, but it wasn't fear that made him move. It was excitement. From the side corridor she appeared, Zira. She was young, though far older than her appearance suggested by alien standards. Her skin shimmered like liquid silver, and her large eyes glowed faintly violet. Her uniform was sleek, reflecting light in strange patterns, and a set of high-tech restraints dangled from her belt, humming softly with energy. "Stop! You are under arrest!" Zira commanded. Her voice was firm, and there was no room for argument. Eli froze for a moment, then grinned. Humans had faced dangers before, but never quite like this. Hello?" he said, raising his hand slightly. "I didn't mean to. I'm just visiting." Zira's eyes narrowed. "Visitors don't touch restricted areas. That is not allowed. You will come with me." She activated the restraints. A faint light extended into the air, forming a cage-like structure around Eli. It hummed, then reached for his wrists, ready to lock him in. Eli took a step back, and the cage collapsed. The energy barriers flickered and failed completely. He blinked, amazed. Zira's eyes widened in disbelief. "What? How?" she muttered. The restraints had never failed before. Eli didn't answer. He saw the opportunity and ran. The corridor was crowded with beings of all shapes. Some had wings, some had multiple legs, and some moved in ways that seemed impossible. But Eli's human reflexes were sharp. He dodged, ducked, and leapt with surprising agility. He even managed to slide under a small hovering drone that zipped toward him, scanning him for identification. Zira was fast, but she had to navigate around the crowd. Every step she took was precise, practiced, and yet Eli's unpredictability made her pause for a moment. She hadn't expected her target to be so nimble. The chase was on. Eli ran through open halls, past markets, and over platforms that swayed gently. Every corner he turned offered new challenges. He ducked under a conveyor belt carrying alien cargo, vaulted over glowing containers, and even used a moving light bridge as a shortcut. Zira followed, her frustration growing. "Why won't you stop?" she shouted. Her voice carried authority, but there was also a hint of curiosity now. Humans were supposed to be clever, yes, but this was unusual. Eli glanced back. He didn't stop running, but he allowed himself a grin. He was enjoying this more than he should, and he knew it. Every obstacle, every twist, every moment of narrowly avoiding capture made him feel alive. Finally, he spotted a maintenance ladder leading to a lower deck. He scrambled down, barely noticing the sudden drop in gravity. His human instincts adjusted quickly, and he landed safely. Zira appeared at the top of the ladder, floating slightly as she maneuvered her anti-gravity boots. Her restraints hummed again, but she realized they wouldn't reach him from this angle. "Impressive," she admitted, more to herself than to him. Eli took a deep breath. "Thanks, I think," he said, though he didn't stop moving. The lower decks of Virex Station were quieter, darker. Pipes ran along the walls, and small maintenance bots zipped along their tracks. Eli used the shadows to his advantage, weaving between them, hiding when necessary, and observing the paths Zira took. He noticed something fascinating. The aliens here had advanced technology, but their systems were predictable. Humans, he realized, had the ability to improvise in ways most other species didn't. That thought gave him confidence. Meanwhile, Zira was recalculating. Her pride had been wounded by the failure of her restraints, but she couldn't deny the humans' ingenuity. She had trained for years, capturing all sorts of beings, yet Eli seemed different. He wasn't malicious. He was curious, clever, and fast. "You're clever, human," she said quietly, "but you cannot escape forever." Eli smiled in the shadows, hearing her voice, though he knew she couldn't see him. Humans thrived in challenges like this. It wasn't just survival, it was creativity, bravery, and instinct all working together. Then, as if the station itself had decided to intervene, a section of the lower deck suddenly shifted. A cargo platform tilted, sending crates sliding toward the walls. Eli barely dodged a falling container, and his heart pounded. Zira took advantage of the chaos. She floated down carefully, positioning herself in front of a narrow passage. "There is nowhere left to run," she said. Eli paused, considering his options. The passage looked risky, pipes overhead, narrow walls, and uneven flooring. But he also saw something unusual, a maintenance hatch slightly ajar. With a running leap, he dove through it, pulling himself into the small crawl space. Dust and small sparks flew as he landed. But he was safe, at least for now. Zira reached the hatch moments later, peering inside. She touched the side, scanning. "Interesting," she muttered. "He thinks like a human." Humans, she realized, were unpredictable in ways no alien technology could fully anticipate. Eli crawled through the narrow tunnel, thinking fast. He knew he couldn't stay hidden forever, but he also realized something. Escaping Zira wasn't just about avoiding capture. It was about showing that humans were capable of more than the aliens expected. Humans adapted, humans solved problems, and humans were not easily restrained. Finally, he reached a maintenance door that led back to the upper decks. Carefully, he opened it and slipped through, blending into a crowd of aliens. He looked back, scanning for Zira. He didn't see her, but he knew she was close. And he also knew one thing. This chase was far from over. Eli moved swiftly through the upper levels of Virex Station, blending with the crowd. The colorful beings around him paid little attention, but he knew that wouldn't last. Somewhere behind the flashing signs and hovering platforms, Zira was tracking him. He could feel it in the quiet hum of the station's energy, the subtle vibrations beneath his boots. He ducked into a narrow alley, a shortcut between two towering market halls. Floating banners shimmered overhead, advertising goods from across the galaxy, glowing fruit, exotic fabrics, and tools made from rare minerals. He ran past merchants and shoppers, careful not to draw too much attention, but the chaos was his ally. Meanwhile, Zira moved with grace and precision. Her anti-gravity boots allowed her to float smoothly above the ground, adjusting to obstacles faster than any human could. Yet even with her technology, Eli's unpredictability made her pause. He was clever, fast, and unafraid, qualities she had rarely seen in someone so small and seemingly fragile. "Why is he so fast?" she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. She had trained to anticipate movements, to predict escape routes, but Eli was different. His instincts were alive in ways alien training could not match. Eli spotted a maintenance elevator and dove inside, pressing the control panel with his fingers. The door closed just as Zira rounded the corner. She sighed in frustration but activated a scanning pulse to track him. The elevator was small, and he could feel the hum of the station all around. "Humans are always clever," Zira said quietly. "But cleverness has limits." Eli pressed a button for a lower deck he had noticed earlier. The elevator shuddered, then descended smoothly. He peeked through the small viewing window and saw the station's bustling corridors stretch below him. He took a deep breath. The chase was exhausting but exhilarating. Every corner, every obstacle was a puzzle waiting to be solved. When the elevator doors opened, Eli slipped out quietly. The corridor ahead was lined with pipes and maintenance conduits. The lights flickered slightly, giving the space a shadowy, unpredictable quality. He moved carefully, knowing Zira would be nearby. Sure enough, she appeared moments later. Her restraints glimmered faintly, humming as if alive. "Eli," she said, calling his name. "Stop running. You cannot escape." Eli grinned, ducking under a low pipe. "Maybe not," he said, "but I can sure make it difficult." The corridor twisted and turned, with multiple branching paths. Eli quickly chose one that led to a ventilation shaft. He climbed inside, sliding through the narrow metal tunnel. The sound of the station faded slightly, replaced by the rhythmic hum of the ventilation system. Zira paused at the entrance, scanning. The shaft was too small for her, but she wasn't worried. She had learned that humans, clever as they were, often left patterns in their movements, and she intended to find him. As Eli crawled, he thought about why he wasn't afraid. Humans thrived in unpredictable situations. They adapted, they improvised. This wasn't just survival, it was a game of wits, and he was determined to win. He emerged into a large storage bay. Crates of alien goods were stacked high, some glowing faintly, others humming softly with energy. Eli darted between them, hiding behind containers and using the shadows to his advantage. Zira entered the bay cautiously. "You're clever, human," she said aloud, scanning the area. "But cleverness alone won't save you." Eli smiled, hiding behind a crate. He noticed the patterns in her movement. The way she calculated angles, how she predicted where he might run. It was impressive, but predictable. He waited for the right moment. A group of small cargo drones moved along a track, carrying supplies to another part of the station. Eli had an idea. With quick hands, he pushed a crate onto the track. The crate toppled onto a drone, causing it to wobble and crash softly into another, creating a small, controlled chaos. The noise distracted Zira momentarily. Taking advantage of the distraction, Eli sprinted toward a service lift. He pressed the control panel frantically, and the lift doors opened just in time. He slipped inside and hit the button for the next level. Zira had recovered quickly. She floated toward the lift, scanning. "Predictable," she muttered, shaking her head slightly. "Not for long." The lift descended slowly, carrying Eli past the station's energy conduits. He noticed the glowing blue lines beneath the glass floor, pulsing with the station's core energy. He realized that this station, while advanced, relied on systems that humans could understand and use creatively. When the lift reached the lower level, Eli stepped out into another crowded corridor. This one led to a bustling marketplace, filled with aliens of every shape and color. He blended in as best he could, though he knew he stood out. Humans were rare here. Zira appeared at the corridor entrance, scanning the crowd. Her eyes glowed faintly as she tried to isolate him from the sea of beings. But Eli moved unpredictably, ducking, weaving, and even using small stalls to hide his movements. He paused for a moment behind a stall selling glowing fruit. He noticed Zira scanning above the crowd, her expression calm but determined. Eli realized something important. Zira wasn't just a guard. She was skilled, disciplined, and brave, and humans had a way of respecting courage, even from other species. The chase continued through the market, with Eli using every trick he could think of. He leapt over low barriers, slid under floating carts, and even grabbed onto a hovering platform to swing across the corridor. Zira followed, her movements precise, her eyes never leaving him. Finally, Eli reached a narrow alley that led to the station's observation deck. He could see the stars outside, glowing brilliantly. The platform above offered a chance to escape, but it was risky. He took a deep breath and climbed. Zira followed, floating above him, her restraints humming faintly. "You have skill, human," she said, almost admiringly, "but skill alone cannot change your fate." Eli reached the edge of the platform and looked down at the busy corridors below. He had to make a choice, jump to another platform or try to hide among the crowd. He chose the jump. With a deep breath, he leapt across the gap, grabbing the edge of the next platform. Zira observed carefully. Humans had a boldness that many species lacked. They were willing to take risks, to trust their instincts, to adapt quickly. And that was what made them dangerous in ways that were admirable. Eli landed safely and moved quickly along the platform. He didn't stop to look back, though he could sense Zira following. The chase had gone on for hours, and he could feel his muscles burning, but he also felt alive, sharper than ever. Finally, he reached a section of the station under construction. The platforms were uneven, and the lighting was dim. This was a place where his ingenuity could shine. He used loose cables to swing across gaps, avoided unstable panels, and even created small distractions with hanging crates. Zira pursued, her movements fluid, precise, and unrelenting. But Eli realized something important. This chase wasn't just about capture. It was about proving something, about showing that humans could think, adapt, and overcome challenges in ways that others could not. As they reached the central hub of the construction area, the station's emergency lights flashed red. Eli noticed a control panel nearby. With a quick calculation, he activated a small lift that lowered him safely to another level, out of Zira's immediate reach. Zira arrived moments later, scanning. She could see where he had gone, but the path was complex. "You are clever, human," she admitted. "Perhaps more clever than I expected." Eli, hidden behind a stack of crates, smiled. Humans were known for bravery, creativity, and adaptability. Today, he had shown all three, but he knew the chase was far from over. Zira would not give up, and he wouldn't either. And so, through the twisting corridors, crowded markets, and dimly lit maintenance halls of Vyrek Station, the chase continued, each step testing Eli's skill, each move revealing Zira's determination, and each moment proving that humans were capable of far more than anyone expected. Eli crouched behind a stack of glowing cargo crates, catching his breath. His muscles ached from the chase, and his heart pounded. But he felt alive in a way he had never felt before. The thrill of outsmarting Zira, even for a short time, had made him sharp, alert, and confident. Yet he knew this wouldn't last. Zira was relentless. He could feel her presence nearby, not just from the hum of her anti-gravity boots, but from the way the station itself seemed to respond to her movements. She was scanning, analyzing, calculating his next steps. Humans were clever, she had admitted, but she was determined not to let him escape completely. Then, something unexpected happened. The station shuddered violently. Eli stumbled, clutching a crate for support. Lights flickered across the corridors, and a loud alarm blared throughout Virex Station. Red warning lights pulsed as the ground vibrated beneath him. "What now?" Eli muttered. His curiosity was piqued, but he was no longer thinking about the chase. Something far bigger was happening. From above, a voice echoed across the station. "Attention! Intruders have breached the station. All personnel, secure the core and evacuate civilians immediately." Eli's eyes widened. Intruders? On Virex Station? This was serious. He had been so focused on avoiding arrest that he hadn't considered that the station itself could be in danger. Zira appeared from above, her violet eyes glowing in the dim light. "Eli," she said firmly, "this is not your fight. You need to stay out of it." Eli shook his head. "I can't just hide. If these intruders are here, people could get hurt." Humans had a sense of responsibility that often drove them into dangerous situations. It wasn't recklessness. It was courage and a desire to protect others. Zira studied him for a long moment. Her restraints hung idle at her sides, still glowing faintly. "You are reckless," she said, though there was no anger in her voice. "But perhaps you are useful." Before Eli could respond, the sound of crashing metal echoed down the corridor. A group of intruders, cloaked in dark energy suits, appeared at the end of the hall. Their faces were hidden, but their intent was clear: destruction and theft. Eli and Zira froze for a moment, sizing up the situation. The intruders moved quickly, bypassing security drones with ease. It was clear they had studied the station's layout and knew exactly what they were doing. Zira took a deep breath. "We have no choice. We must work together." Eli raised an eyebrow. "Together? I thought you wanted to arrest me." Her eyes softened slightly. Right now, survival and protection matter more than arresting a clever human. It was an uneasy alliance, but Eli understood. Humans were good at improvising and adapting, but in this situation, Zira's knowledge of the station and her alien abilities were invaluable. The first wave of intruders moved toward the central energy core, the heart of the station. If they succeeded, the consequences could be catastrophic. Eli and Zira ran ahead of them, navigating narrow maintenance corridors, energy conduits, and stairways that twisted through the station like a labyrinth. Eli noticed small details: loose panels, exposed wiring, and energy nodes that could be used to their advantage. He whispered to Zira as they ran. "If we can lead them into the maintenance bay, we might be able to trap them temporarily." Zira nodded, impressed by his thinking. "Good. Follow my lead and stay close." They reached the maintenance bay, a vast space filled with floating platforms, conveyor belts, and stacks of cargo. Eli quickly calculated the layout. Using the platforms, they could create obstacles and funnels to slow the intruders down. "On my mark," Zira said, her voice calm and precise. Eli watched as she activated a panel, raising a section of the floor to block one path. He used a cable to swing across a gap, landing behind a crate that hid him from view. The intruders moved with precision, but they were slightly delayed by the obstacles Zira and Eli had set up. The teamwork was slow to start, but it worked. Eli's human intuition and Zira's alien training complemented each other. He found small ways to misdirect the intruders, while she blocked escape routes and provided tactical guidance. At one point, an intruder lunged toward Eli. He dodged instinctively, using a loose cable to swing out of reach. Zira moved quickly, extending a containment net from her belt that immobilized the intruder for a few crucial seconds. Eli caught his breath and smiled briefly. "See? Humans can be useful too." Zira didn't smile, but there was respect in her eyes. "Perhaps more useful than I imagined." They continued through the bay, coordinating their movements. Eli spotted an energy conduit that could be redirected to create a temporary barrier. With a quick adjustment, he caused a surge that blocked one of the intruder's paths. Zyra used this opportunity to advance, subduing another intruder with a precise maneuver. The alliance, though forced, was working. Eli realized that humans had strengths beyond speed and creativity. They had empathy, courage, and a willingness to risk themselves to protect others. Zyra, despite her experience and training, was beginning to see the value of these qualities in action. As they neared the central hub, the intruders' numbers seemed overwhelming. Eli's heart pounded, but he felt a calm determination settle over him. Humans thrived in impossible situations, and this was no exception. "We need to reach the core before they do," Zyra said, her voice steady. "Follow my lead and trust me." Eli nodded. He had learned long ago that survival often depended on trust, sometimes in yourself, sometimes in others. Today, he had to trust Zyra. They moved through narrow corridors, emerging into the central hub. The core glowed brightly, pulsing with energy that powered the entire station. The intruders were already attempting to access it, using strange devices to override security systems. Eli scanned quickly and spotted a control panel nearby. "If I can reroute the power," he said, "we can temporarily disable their equipment." Zyra glanced at him. "Do it." With deft fingers, Eli manipulated the controls. Sparks flew, and energy lines shifted. The intruders' devices flickered and stalled. Zyra seized the moment, using her restraints to immobilize two of the intruders. For a brief moment, they had the upper hand. Eli and Zyra moved swiftly, coordinating their actions like a well-trained team. One by one, they forced the intruders back, using both clever tactics and precise maneuvers. Finally, the intruders retreated, realizing they could not achieve their goal. The station's emergency systems activated fully, securing the core and alerting the authorities. Eli and Zyra stood in the central hub, breathing heavily. The hum of the energy core filled the space, steady and reassuring. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by the distant alarms signaling that the station was safe again. Zyra turned to Eli. "You are unlike any human I have encountered," she said. "You are clever, brave, and resourceful." Eli smiled, feeling both proud and exhausted. "And you're one of the best partners a human could ask for," he replied. "Even if you were trying to arrest me a few hours ago." Zyra's eyes glowed faintly in what might have been amusement. Perhaps humans are not so easy to restrain after all. For the first time, Eli saw Zyra not as an adversary, but as an ally. They had faced a crisis together, relying on each other's strengths and overcoming obstacles that neither could have managed alone. Eli realized that humans had a unique ability to inspire trust and cooperation, even in beings from distant worlds. Zyra, despite her pride and discipline, had recognized the value of human ingenuity. And in that recognition, a new respect was born. As they left the central hub, the station authorities arrived to assess the situation. Eli and Zyra explained their actions, highlighting how their teamwork had prevented a catastrophe. The officials nodded in approval, acknowledging both the humans' bravery and the alien officer's skill. Eli looked at Zyra as they walked together through the restored corridors. "So, does this mean we're friends now?" he asked, half joking. Zyra glanced at him, a small smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Perhaps for now." They had survived the crisis, and in the process, Eli had proven that humans could adapt, improvise, and overcome even in the most challenging circumstances. Zyra had learned that sometimes courage and cleverness mattered more than rules or technology. For both of them, this was more than a victory. It was a lesson. Humans were unpredictable, resourceful, and capable of extraordinary feats. And aliens, even the most disciplined, could learn from that spirit. As they parted ways to return to their respective duties, Eli knew one thing. The station had seen the true potential of humanity today, and Zira, for her part, would never underestimate a human again. The uneasy alliance had become a bond forged in the heat of crisis, a bond that neither would forget. Eli and Zira moved cautiously through the corridors of Virex Station, the hum of the energy core still echoing in their ears. The earlier intruders had retreated, but Eli sensed this was only the beginning. Their presence had been bold, and their purpose had been clear. Whoever they weren't leaving empty-handed. "This way," Zira said, leading him to a side corridor that branched toward the outer docking bays. "I've traced the intruders' energy signatures. They're heading to the station's secondary core. If they take it, they could power weapons capable of devastating entire sectors of the galaxy." Eli's eyes widened. Weapons? That's bad. Really bad. Humans had a deep sense of responsibility, and the thought of potential destruction stirred a determination inside him. "We have to stop them." Zira nodded. "Exactly. And this time we can't rely on luck or improvisation alone. We have to plan." They ducked into a narrow maintenance passage. The walls vibrated faintly with the power of the station's conduits, and the dim lighting cast long shadows. Eli took a deep breath, thinking quickly. He had a knack for seeing solutions where others saw chaos. "We can use the station itself against them," he said. "Loose panels, maintenance lifts, and energy conduits. We can trap or slow them down if we coordinate." Zira's eyes glowed faintly in approval. "Good. Let's divide responsibilities. You focus on creating obstacles. I'll engage them directly and use my restraints where necessary." The first challenge came quickly. Around a bend, they encountered a squad of intruders moving with precision and speed. Zira floated forward, extending her restraints to immobilize one intruder, while Eli ducked behind a crate. He ripped a cable loose from the wall and swung it toward another intruder's legs, tripping him. The coordination was instinctive, born from hours of chasing, evading, and learning each other's tactics. "Nice," Zira said briefly, barely pausing as she redirected the intruder's path toward a maintenance lift Eli had prepared. Eli grinned. "Teamwork makes the dream work, right?" Zira didn't reply with words, but her movements reflected a shared understanding. Humans were adaptable. Zira had spent years enforcing the law and capturing beings far stronger than humans, yet Eli's creativity and quick thinking had given them an edge. They pressed forward, entering a large chamber near the station's secondary core. The intruders were already there, their dark suits blending with the shadows. Strange devices hovered around the core, pulsating with energy as they tried to override its protections. Eli's mind raced. He scanned the room and saw what the intruders hadn't: exposed energy conduits, loose panels, and hovering cargo platforms that could be moved strategically. "We can use this," he whispered. "If we trigger the conduits, we can disable their devices temporarily." Zira nodded. "Do it." Eli moved carefully, rerouting the energy flow. Sparks flew, and the intruders' devices flickered. One of them tried to activate a shield, but it failed. Zira seized the moment, moving with grace and precision, capturing two intruders with her restraints. Eli cheered silently at their effectiveness. "Keep it up," he called softly, repositioning a floating cargo crate to block a passageway. The intruders were clever, adapting quickly, but Eli and Zira were faster. Their combined efforts created confusion among the intruders, slowing their progress. Eli realized that humans excelled at improvisation, and Zira's training provided discipline. They balanced each other perfectly. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared, signaling the intruders' backup arriving. More figures in dark suits appeared at the chamber's entrance. Eli's heart raced, but he stayed calm. He spotted a series of energy conduits above, running along the ceiling. "If we can release those conduits, it will create a barrier," he shouted. Zira understood immediately. "I'll hold them off. You do it!" With careful hands, Eli triggered the conduits. Beams of energy shot down, forming temporary barriers that blocked the intruder's path. Sparks and glowing arcs filled the room, forcing the intruders to hesitate. Zira moved swiftly, restraining another two intruders, while Eli repositioned crates and cables to control the flow of the battle. For the first time, Eli felt the exhilaration of true cooperation. He wasn't just escaping or evading, he was actively protecting the station, using both his ingenuity and courage. Zira, too, saw the potential of humans in a new light. Their combination of creativity, bravery, and adaptability was remarkable. The intruders regrouped, clearly frustrated. They pressed forward, determined to reach the secondary core. Eli glanced around and spotted a control panel near the core. "If I can overload it temporarily, we can cut off their power," he shouted to Zira. "Do it," she replied, engaging the intruders directly, using her agility and restraints to neutralize threats. Eli worked quickly, tapping into the panel with his human intuition. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the intruders' equipment flickered and stalled. Zira moved in perfect rhythm with his actions, capturing or redirecting the remaining intruders. Finally, the last intruder tried to flee, but Zira caught him with a swift, precise maneuver. Eli adjusted a floating platform to block the exit, ensuring no one escaped. The room fell silent, save for the hum of the energy core. The secondary core was secure, and the intruders were neutralized, captured or contained temporarily. Eli and Zira stood side by side, breathing heavily, their expressions a mixture of relief and triumph. "You did well," Zira said, her eyes reflecting genuine respect. "Humans are impressive. You adapt, improvise, and act when others hesitate." Eli smiled, wiping sweat from his brow. "And you're incredible at strategy and precision. We make a good team, don't we?" Zira's lips curved slightly into what could almost be called a smile. Perhaps. Today, rules were less important than survival and cooperation. Eli looked around the chamber. Sparks from the conduits still flickered, casting a glow across the walls. The intruders' devices were disabled, and the secondary core pulsed steadily with energy. The station was safe. For now. "This is what humans do," Eli said quietly. "We face challenges, even impossible ones, and we find a way, not by brute strength alone, but by thinking, adapting, and never giving up." Zira considered his words. She had always respected skill and discipline, but there was something different about human courage. It wasn't just bravery, it was resilience, creativity, and a determination that refused to be restrained. The authorities arrived soon after, securing the intruders and assessing the damage. Eli and Zira explained their actions, highlighting the combination of ingenuity and tactical precision that had saved the station. The officials nodded in approval, acknowledging both the human's courage and the alien officer's skill. Eli glanced at Zira. "So, what now?" "Now," she said, her eyes calm but reflective. "We recognize that humans are capable of far more than I ever imagined, and that sometimes teamwork across species can achieve what neither could alone." Eli grinned. Humans had always faced the impossible, and this was no different. He had proven that courage, cleverness, and adaptability were strengths that transcended worlds. As they walked together through the restored corridors, Eli realized something important. Humans didn't just survive, they inspired. Zira, despite her pride and discipline, had learned that even the most advanced beings could benefit from human ingenuity and spirit. For both of them, this was more than a victory. It was a lesson in trust, cooperation, and the unique power of human creativity. The intruders had underestimated the station, and they had underestimated humans. Eli knew that humanity had once again proven itself capable of extraordinary feats, and Zira, for her part, would never underestimate a human again. As they parted ways temporarily to report to their respective authorities, Eli felt a sense of accomplishment. The chase, the crisis, the battle, they had all led to this moment. Humans had shown that even in a galaxy full of advanced civilizations, courage, creativity, and quick thinking could turn the tide of events. Zira watched him leave, a sense of admiration and respect in her eyes. Today had proven that no matter how advanced a species might be, human ingenuity was unpredictable, unrestrained, and remarkable. The story of Eli and Zira's teamwork would be remembered in Virex Station as a tale of bravery, skill, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. And Eli, already thinking of his next adventure, knew that wherever humans went, their spirit would continue to surprise, inspire, and protect. The chaos of the intruder attack had faded, leaving Virex Station humming with restored energy. Lights glowed steadily, and the corridors, once filled with alarms and rushing beings, were now calm. Eli walked alongside Zira, moving through the corridors that had seen their fierce teamwork. Though both were tired, there was a quiet satisfaction in the air, a sense that they had faced something far greater than themselves and had succeeded together. "Do you always take human fugitives on such long chases?" Eli asked lightly, though he was still catching his breath. Zira's violet eyes glimmered with amusement. "Not always," she replied. "But when a human proves unpredictable, I feel compelled to see how far they can go." Eli laughed softly. "Unpredictable seems to be my specialty." Humans had a way of thriving in unexpected circumstances, and Eli was living proof. He had spent hours evading one of the most skilled officers on the station, and now, after fighting off the intruders together, he felt a new sense of respect for Zira, and he suspected the feeling was mutual. They reached the station's main observation deck. Outside, stars stretched across the blackness of space, each one shining with a brilliance that reminded Eli why humans had always dreamed of reaching beyond their own world. The view was breathtaking, and for a moment, both of them were silent, simply taking it in. "The intruders have been secured," Zira said after a pause. "The authorities are grateful. Without your quick thinking, the outcome might have been very different." Eli shrugged modestly. "I just did what humans do best. We think fast, improvise, and sometimes take a leap of faith." He smiled. "Seems it worked this time." Zira studied him, her expression thoughtful. "I underestimated your species," she admitted. "Humans are not just clever. You are courageous, adaptable, and resilient. Today, you proved that even in the face of overwhelming odds, you can find a way to succeed." Eli's chest swelled slightly. Humans had always been praised for courage and ingenuity, but hearing it from an alien like Zira, a being who had seen countless advanced species, carried a unique weight. "Thanks," he said quietly. "That means a lot." Zira's gaze shifted outward, toward the stars. "It also shows that rules and technology, while important, cannot account for creativity, courage, and spirit. Sometimes the unexpected, like a human, makes all the difference." Eli nodded, feeling a surge of pride. Humans had long been underestimated by other civilizations. They had often been viewed as weaker, less advanced, or less disciplined. But today, he had proven that humans could rise to any challenge. They could think, adapt, and act when it mattered most. Zira turned back to him, her expression softening. "You remind me why I became an officer, not just to enforce the law, but to protect others and to learn from those who surprise me." Eli grinned. "And I remind you why humans are hard to restrain?" Zira's lips curved slightly into what could be called a smile. "Perhaps." She tilted her head, a gesture of thoughtful consideration. "But today was not about restraints. It was about trust, cooperation, and proving what can be achieved when differences are set aside." Eli looked at her, realizing that they had formed a bond, an unusual alliance born of circumstance, challenge, and shared goals. He thought about the chase, the fight, and the chaos they had navigated together. "You know," he said, "I never thought a chase could end like this." Zira chuckled softly. "Nor did I. But it proves that outcomes are often determined by those willing to adapt and take initiative." The authorities approached, acknowledging their contributions. Eli and Zira were formally thanked, and their actions were recorded as exemplary teamwork. The recognition was satisfying, but Eli cared more about the lesson learned, the true potential of cooperation across species. As the officials departed, Eli turned to Zira. "So, are we friends now?" he asked, half teasing. Zira considered the question. Her species didn't always express friendship the same way humans did, but she understood the sentiment. "Perhaps," she said slowly. "Today, we have shown that mutual respect can form even in the most unexpected situations." Eli nodded, smiling. Humans had a natural ability to forge connections, to inspire trust and cooperation, and Zira, despite being from a species of discipline and precision, had learned that lesson firsthand. They spent a few moments walking along the observation deck, watching ships drift in and out of the station's docking bays. The stars stretched endlessly beyond, a reminder that the galaxy was vast, full of unknown challenges, and waiting for explorers like Eli. "I'll be leaving soon," Eli said, a hint of sadness in his voice. "But I hope our paths cross again." Zira's eyes glimmered faintly. "I hope so as well. Humans are rare, and ones like you even rarer. You have shown qualities that inspire respect, even admiration." Eli smiled, feeling the weight of her words. Humans often found themselves underestimated, but moments like these reminded him why courage, intelligence, and creativity mattered. They weren't just traits, they were proof that humans could face the galaxy on equal footing with the most advanced civilizations. As Eli prepared to depart, Zira handed him a small device, a communication link. "If you ever need guidance or assistance on Vyrek Station, use this. Consider it a gesture of trust and perhaps friendship." Eli accepted it gratefully. "Thank you. That means a lot. And I promise if I return, I'll make sure it's for more than just a chase." Zira's smile widened faintly. "Good. The galaxy is large, and humans like you make it interesting." As Eli boarded his small exploration vessel, he looked back at Vyrek Station. The stars beyond stretched infinitely, and he felt a sense of pride, determination, and hope. Humans had once again proven that courage, creativity, and adaptability were not just survival traits. They were strengths that could inspire, protect, and change the course of events. Zira watched from the observation deck, her eyes following the vessel as it floated into the starry expanse. The human had left an impression, not just on her, but on the station itself. She realized that even the most disciplined beings could learn from humans, their unpredictability, their ingenuity, and their unyielding spirit. The story of Eli and Zira's partnership would be remembered throughout Vyrek Station, a tale of courage, intelligence, and cooperation that transcended species. Humans had once again proven that they were capable of extraordinary feats, not through raw power, but through creativity, bravery, and determination. Eli's vessel disappeared into the distance, leaving Zira with a sense of admiration and a renewed perspective. She knew that humans could not be restrained easily, not by technology, not by rules, and certainly not by expectations. They were capable of greatness, and she had witnessed it firsthand. As the station returned to normal, Zira reflected on the lessons of the day. Trust, adaptability, and cooperation were as powerful as any weapon. And humans, with their unique blend of courage and ingenuity, were a force that could surprise even the most advanced civilizations. Eli, soaring through the galaxy, thought about his journey. He had faced danger, evaded capture, and fought alongside an alien officer to save an entire station. He had proven what humans could do when they relied on quick thinking, courage, and cooperation. And he knew that no matter where he went, that spirit would continue to guide him. The galaxy was vast, full of challenges and adventures waiting to be faced, but humans were ready. They had shown that their creativity, bravery, and adaptability were unmatched. And in every corner of the universe, civilizations would come to recognize the strength of humanity, not in weapons, but in spirit. Eli looked forward to the next adventure, knowing that Zira, and perhaps others he had yet to meet, would remember him not as a fugitive or troublemaker, but as a human, a being capable of courage, cleverness, and extraordinary feats. Zira returned to her duties, a quiet smile on her face. She had learned something invaluable. Humans were not to be underestimated. Their ingenuity and courage could turn the tide of any situation, and sometimes those qualities were enough to make even the most disciplined alien reconsider everything they thought they knew. As the stars outside Virex Station continued to shine, the story ended not with an end, but with a promise. Humanity's spirit, creativity, and bravery would continue to inspire, protect, and surprise. Wherever humans went, they would leave an impression, a reminder that even in a vast galaxy filled with advanced civilizations, humans were a force to be reckoned with. And in that truth, there was hope.